What's up guys, Harthic here, and today we're playing some more Shadowrun. Last time around we wasted time on the internet and it was great. This time we're actually going to go on a mission. So I'm going to open up the jobs directory and I've got now 3 pending jobs. I think we'll go with the smash and grab, which we read through last time. So I'm going to take that one. Nice simple robbery. Excellent, I've attached directions to Lou's establishment, to Lou's estate on this message. Good luck, don't fuck it up. Can I take all of them? I guess I'll take all of them. Okay. Yeah. But I think I'm gonna go for the smash and grab. Okay. What's in the hatch? Anything cool? What are you? Raptor. It's oppressively hot down here, and the air is full of synthetic odors that grab you by the sinuses and refuse to let go. You can smell engine grease and melting plastic, ionized air, and lead solder. A quick scan of the room tells you why. The downstairs tenant has converted the space into a machine shop. Metal fabrication tools and Duraplast extruders line the walls, and a pair of heavy industrial manipulators hang from the ceiling. A man in a black trench coat stands with his back to you, staring at a monitor mounted above a sturdy workbench. He addresses you without turning. "Ah, I was wondering when I'd meet the new neighbor." His voice is pleasant, cultured. There's a hint of a Russian accent there, but it's buried under layers of nuance. "Please stay where you are. I'll be with you in just a moment. And unless you fancy an unplanned trip to Chrome Alley, don't touch anything. There are all manners of tools in here that could take your hand clean off. Thanks for the warning. Don't mention it. I have no interest in seeing anyone hurt in my shop, especially not my upstairs neighbor." Let's examine the robot arms. You focus on the enormous manipulator arms that you saw earlier. They're bulky, industrial things, dented from years of heavy use. Each arm has been fitted with at least a dozen different welders, soldering guns, extruders, and metal fabrication tools. You've seen machinery like this in factories before, but they look terribly out of place in the bolt holes cramped engine room. Very good. Yes, it's coming along nicely. Very nicely indeed. He turns toward you, smiling, and for the first time you can see his face. He has broadly handsome Slavic features and a chiseled jaw. His eyes are like flecks of ice. "So sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Harthic." "It's no problem. Don't worry about it." "You're too kind. Now tell me, what can I do for it?" His voice trails off as a flash of motion catches his eye. With alarming speed, a sinister-looking drone scuttles out from under the workbench. Its movements are surprisingly agile and fluid. The machine rears back menacingly, spreading its forelegs in a clear sign of aggression. The man's smile tilts and his tone goes apologetic. "Please, don't mind the drone. He can be territorial, but so long as you remain civil, he will not bite." He extends a hand. Simultaneously, the drone relaxes into a neutral position, lowering its killing legs. "Raptor. My mechanical counterpart here is called Cochet." "A pleasure." His hand is rough and abnormally warm to the touch. He shakes your hand with a solid grip. "I am very pleased to meet you, my friend. In a community such as yours, it's important to be on good terms with one's neighbors." "Agreed. Speaking of which, I'd like to ask you some questions." He glances at the bracer on his forearm. The technical display winks to life, then gutters out. "Very well. This morning's casting should still be cooling for a few minutes yet. That's time enough to talk." "When you said this morning's casting, what did you mean?" "Exactly what I said. A casting that I made for a new locomotive assembly for Kashoy." He gestures to the display above the work table. "A biomimetic design, as you can see. This one is inspired by the walking legs of a decapod crustacean, the mangrove crab to be specific." "That's fascinating. And with this new leg assembly make your drone more effective?" "That remains to be seen, but there's more to life than combat effectiveness, is there not? By fabricating new components for Kashoy, I unlock options, different ways of being, even the failures, and there have been many, have value in this context. How did you learn to do all this? More training and experience than I care to mention. He offers you a wry smile. Drone architecture was once my profession, you see. Now it's more of a calling, one that I'm free to pursue, now that I've freed myself from the shackles of corporate servitude. Kashoi is an interesting name for a droid. Yes, I suppose that it is. Not many riggers would name their most prized possession after a villain from a fairy tale. A nod to my heritage, I suppose. If I had the right etiquette, I could know what he's talking about. But I don't, so I'm going to ask him. A thoroughly unpleasant person. Kashoi the Deathless, he was called, and for good reason. His soul was cleverly hidden outside of his body, and could not be killed so long as it remained intact. Kashoi was a villain and a notorious kidnapper of women, but something about him always stuck with me. I suppose it was the notion of immortality through cleverness that resonated with me. There was something to be learned from that, I was sure. And so, when it came time to name my beloved creation, his was the first name that came to mind. And is your drone deathless, like his namesake? In a matter of speaking, I suppose that he is. I have redundant copies of every piece of his architecture, and his core programming is stored on disk in a secret location. Should he ever suffer critical damage, I can easily bring him back. I had a plan once to automate the self-repair process. I must confess, it was really quite ingenious, but alas, my research was lost. One day I will reclaim it, and Kashoi will become as deathless as the stories claim, but it will not be today. Let's see. How did you get all this? You got some interesting stuff here. He smiles. The same could be said of many, Hawaii, I'm sure. This is a smuggler's den, is it not? Our entire economy is based on people having things that they shouldn't. Is there any particular device that interests you out of curiosity? The arms are interesting. His smile flashes brilliantly in the light. Good guess. They are, in fact, from an assembly line. They fell off a boat, you might say. They weren't cheap, but I acquired them and I had them mounted to the walls of my shop. I simply had to have them. The return on investment has been dramatic. Yes, they're cruder by far than the Waldo devices that I used in my professional life, but they still do the job and they are mine. He gazes lovingly at the industrial arms, still smiling. They have increased my fabrication capabilities nearly tenfold, and that, to me, is worth any price. Are you Russian? He nods. You have a good ear. I'm impressed. Yes, I grew up in Nizian... Oh, fuck, I'm not going to say that. Went to school there. Started my career there in the industrial sector. A fairly common story, I'm sure. But I have also traveled a great deal, and in so doing, I have absorbed a number of other languages and dialects. You've done a good job of dropping your accent. No, I'm not trying to distance. That's just how I speak now. He raises an eyebrow. Would it make you more comfortable if you used the word da more often? Referred to you as comrade, perhaps? That won't be necessary. A fair one. It is true that my travels and experiences have changed me, as I'm sure that yours have changed you. Do not take my failure to match your preconceptions as evidence that I've abandoned my heritage, my friend. We are all the products of our experiences, after all. Who'd you used to work for? That is something of a sore subject. My departure was involuntary, you see. I did not part ways with my employer under the best of terms. I will tell you that I worked for Grishin Aviakor, but you'll forgive me if I don't go into detail. How do you afford all this machinery? Keep it going. He's freelance. At the risk of sounding immodest, I've commodified myself rather well. There are always corporations in need of design consultations. You'd be surprised by how lucrative such work can be, and there is always other work I could turn to in a pinch. He said you have other work. Care to tell me what kind? He pauses, and for a second, something flashes in his eye. Kashoi lowers its body into a crouch. A rather personal question, wouldn't you say? Maybe, but then we're having a personal conversation. Indeed we are, but even in personal conversations, certain topics can be held off limits. Truth be told, I don't feel especially comfortable discussing my side work with relative strangers. Suffice to say that my freelance activities also fall on the illicit end of the spectrum. Tell you what, I'm just going to guess. You're a Shadowrunner, aren't you? He gives you a shallow nod. I dislike the term, but yes, I run the shadows. What gave me away? Design consultants live in apartments in Victoria Harbor. You're living in a rusted-out boat. Why? There's gotta be a reason. He shrugs. You are correct, of course. The residents of shadow communities are usually either too poor to live elsewhere or engage in behaviors too illicit to risk it. I will admit to being in the latter camp. Designing robotics is my passion, but it doesn't always pay the bills. He runs a hand over Kashoi's armored chassis, caressing the sculpted metal with his fingertips. My status as a foreigner has proven something of an impediment in this regard. And so, sorry as I may be to say it, the lion's share of my income flows from Kashoi's aptitude for butchery. Such is life, I suppose. We do what we must to do what we love. Seems like everybody on this boat runs the shadows. Why not pool our resources and work together? He purses his lips, considering. A compelling offer. I'm doing quite well on my own, but I must admit there are certain jobs for which I am unsuited. Magic eludes me, and I'm not a decker. My strength comes from material objects in the real world, solid things with mass and heft, things that I can build and operate. Sadly, a great many clients are only interested in teams that display a mastery over the intangible. This group of yours, do you have people who can cover those bases? If so, then perhaps we can help each other out. How can you not already know that? You live right beneath our feet. Have you ever rented a coffin apartment in a big city? Did you know all of your neighbors by name? My situation here is much of the same. I keep to myself, and your friends don't come down to the engine room. The only real connection we share is that we all live in this wreck by kindly chains Largus. Largus? I don't know. Obviously, there were things that I could intuit about your friends from my time here. I'd guessed that they were Shadowrunners. Their behavior fits the profile, but we didn't have any real contact with one another until now. So I'll ask you again. Does your team makeup cover the bases that I described? Yep. We've also got a former security expert. In that case, I will accept your offer on a provisional basis. We'll do a few runs together and see how we get on. If our association bears fruit, it will continue. If not, I will bid you my farewell and go back to working alone. How does that sound? Welcome aboard. Very good. Excellent. When you receive a job, you know where to find me. My skills and resources are at your disposal. And with that, I'm afraid that I must bid you good day. I still have work to do down here. This leg assembly won't clean itself. I'll be in touch. Looking forward to working with you. And I with you. Huh. Wasn't expecting that. Got a new party member. That's cool. Dude living down in the engine room was a decker all along. Or not a decker. He was a rigger. So that's cool. I guess that's where we'll end this video. Thought I would be going on my mission, but instead I recruited a new party member. Take what you can get. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like it, comment below, subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Harthik7790 or my Tumblr page, harthik.tumblr.com. Until next time, guys, this is Harthik. See you later.